Hey Bridge, it's been a long week this week. I am broken. Mind you, you probably are as well a bit, aren't you? You were on parliamentary telly talking about your VAT raid. You did know that we could see that, didn't you? You didn't know that that was being filmed and broadcast. Because it was like you'd sort of slightly forgotten in your mask. I mean, just your face when you're challenged. You hate it, don't you? You know you can get help with that. There are people that can give you strategies. So if nothing else, you hide it, even if inwardly you're going, how dare they question me? I'm the education secretary, even though I know nothing about education. How dare they question me? But yeah, you didn't come across well. It wasn't your finest moments in TV. You showed utter disregard, total disdain for children and their families. Well, there's only going to be a few that's going to have to leave. Oh, okay. Well, as long as it's only a few, then they don't matter, do they? I mean, we know they don't matter to you. We know that 93% of children matter, but 7% of children don't. Now, here's a conundrum for you. When some of those 7% of children are in state, and some of them already are, do they matter to you then? Do you go, oh, I like you now. Now you're in state, it's okay. We can be friends. Is that what happens? Because it must be really confusing for you to say that you only act for the state kids. And that the rich and wealthy ones with the big shoulders that can absorb all of this shit, we're not interested in them, we don't like them, they buy their education and aspiration and wealth and privilege and blah, 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 blah. But they're going to be in state, so then what are you going to do? Are they coming to your party? Are they on the good list? It was quite interesting to watch. It was embarrassing to watch. It was really embarrassing to watch. The fact that you avoided everything and just repeated the manifesto, which has been proven over and over and over again to have so many flaws in it. It's got more holes in it than my colander, Bridge. But yet you just still repeated it. And it's like, she can't be saying that. She knows it's not true. She knows that's not a thing. I mean, I suppose the good news is that the legal cases are now being heard quicker than you'd have liked. And that's been expedited, and that should be sort of early April. So thank the Lord that at least the law is saying this is wrong, even if Bridget Phillipson isn't. So anyway, yeah, bit of TV for you. Well done, Bridge. And then I was doing thinking and being impacted by choices this week. Real hard choices, not your ridiculous pseudo hard choices, which aren't hard choices. You love making them. These were actual real hard choices that surgeons were having to make. Who should they operate on first? Because they've obviously got so many people that need their help and their surgery. But they can't operate on everyone. There aren't the resources. There aren't the man hours. I mean, just everything. They can't do it. So they have to make real tough choices. And the difference is, Bridge, they do it with empathy, unconditional positive regard. They really care about the people that their choices are impacting. They base it on significant research, evidence, a risk assessment, a risk analysis. They base it on all the facts that they have in front of them. If they haven't got all the facts, they go and get more. So they go and get more scans, they go and get more bloods, they go and get more pathology reports. They do the bits to fill the gap so that they've got the entire picture in front of them so they can best make their hard choice. And it is regrettable when they can't make the choice that goes in a particular patient's favour. But instead of going, oh, it's not that many of them, not really matter, does it? They are profoundly affected by this. They are profoundly affected by the effect that this is going to have on the patient and their family. And they show that with deep, deep empathy, integrity, and respect. And they do drive very high standards, and they do spend their entire working career and their working hours, of which they do way too many, trying to achieve the absolute best result for the patients in front of them, and they don't rest until they do. You don't do any of that. You certainly don't do a risk assessment, a risk analysis. You don't go away and get more information if you feel like the information you've got isn't right. You aren't sorry when it profoundly affects the outcome of a child's life. You couldn't give a shit. And I've been at the receiving end of tough choices in the medical profession this week, or my family have. We're constantly at the receiving end of they're not tough, they're shitty choices. But the difference in what that looks like is startling. And the net result is, Bridget, that we didn't necessarily get the answer that we wanted at the beginning of this process with our medical journey, but we got treated with respect, integrity, empathy, compassion, unconditional positive regard, and we knew 100% that our surgeon had my daughter's best interests at heart, and he would stop at nothing until he could deliver the absolute best for her. He walked in her shoes, and she was at the centre of his decision-making process. Now, you ought to try that, Bridge. You ought to go. We all talk to you about going to private school and meeting the parents and the kids, and going to state schools and meeting the parents and the kids of to be fair, that's your class WhatsApp group, isn't it? You meet the parents and kids of affluent areas of state because you're in one. You know, your kids, let's be honest, they're not in the Ofsted underperforming. They're virtually in a state private school. So you meet all of those parents. You know what it's like to be the pushy middle class parent. You are it. I suppose if you were driven by wealth, you'd be upper class. But anyway, we're deviating. You ought to go to medical college, medical school. You ought to go to a counselling course. You ought to go to a listening course. You ought to go somewhere where they can explain the dictionary definition of empathy, compassion, integrity, unconditional positive regard. We'll just start with those because you struggle with words. And let's see if you can get a handle on them. Because if you do, you may be a better person for it. You'd definitely be a better education secretary for it. I mean, there's a lot of gaps in your educational knowledge, and your limits of ability are indeed compromised many times. But you haven't even got the basics. And my week this week of meeting people, nurses, surgeons, the play team, the play therapists, no words. You've used the word enshrined this week. We were enshrined by care and compassion and integrity, and in a real desire to hold my daughter close. And we felt safe. I felt listened to. She felt listened to, and she put her trust in a system. And for a child, they are the most important things that they can have, that robust network around them, that safety network around them, that belief that the grown-ups are doing their actual very best for them. And I hope so much that this legal challenge holds children close. I hope it holds them at the very core, because I know there will be two sides playing each other off against each other. I know it will be the onus of proof is on you, the burden of proof is on you. It's going to be legal jargon and, frankly, legal bullying from both sides, I have no doubt. But I hope more than ever that at the core of this legal case is always remembered the child.